Hi, this is Larry Wilson. I'm the Vice President of Industry Affairs for NCA and also the General Manager for the Sweets and Snacks Expo. And I just wanted to reach out to all of you, first of all, to thank you for being with the industry, joining with the industry, and now what is our 22nd year of the Sweets and Snacks Expo. And additionally, we want to thank you for joining us today to explore insights on how to improve your return on investment by capturing and converting those customer leads that can grow your business. So you notice on the left, the tagline, your year starts here. Now we say that because recent customer research tells us that the Sweets and Snacks Expo is really where our customers get recharged, re-energized, and prepared to take on their next year of business. It's a vibrant, it's a fun and informing experience, and it's where business gets done. And that's really what we're talking about today. As show organizer, NCA is truly committed to helping you maximize your productivity. Now, unlike other shows, we're not merely a convener, and it's not about buying concrete. This is about making sure that we're committed to your success and helping you be effective in advancing your business and opening new avenues for future business. So that's why we're meeting today and why we've created what you're going to see here is our Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. Now, as an exhibitor, you can find easy access to this site with a vast amount of resources that we've assembled for you in a couple of different ways. You could either cut and paste the link you see there into your browser, or you can go to sweetsandsnacks.com and click on Exhibitor on the menu bar at the top, and you'll see a drop-down screen. And under the headline, you're going to see promoting your company/products. And you'll see the first item on that list called the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. So once you're on that page, you'll see simple 5-step process as outlined on this page. And I'm going to take you through really quickly on what they are. First of all, there's step 1. It's about the tools for advancing your planning. There's a trade show planning and management tool. There's a budget and cost control calculator. There's a financial performance metrics tool available there. In step 2, which is about your outcomes, defining your outcomes, what are your goals for the show? Clarify why you're exhibiting and what you want to accomplish and what you need to deliver on those goals. Step 3 is really attracting your ideal customer. Who are the right people? How many booth staff are you going to need to accommodate those customers? How can you engage those customers and the right customers before the event and also during the event? The next step is really about managing your experience and lead. Managing the event experience via your exhibit, your product or service presentation, your demonstration, and your exhibit staff. And it's also understanding that leads are the real product of the show, which is what we're going to be discussing today. And the last one, step 5, is about the performance and ROI. Now, we're all accountable for delivering ROI. That's what you're there for, to turn those leads into sales. So it's identifying and calculating those key success metrics that help you articulate the value of your investment. But the great news is, while you're going to do this for Sweets and Snacks Expo, it'll also allow you to do it for any show that you participate. So today we're going to really focus on step 3, which is about lead management. So by identifying and engaging the right leads, you can transform your business results. We hope that you find the tips today helpful in rethinking and refining your approach to winning in May and in any subsequent trade show you participate in. So with that, there's another tool we want to share with you, a feather tool, next. And essentially, our research among thousands of customers over the last 10 years has told us that peer-to-peer contacts are really what most often encourages their buyers and the merchandising leads to come to the show. Now, when we market them as NCA, we're marketing a show, but when you invite them, you're presenting them with a business proposition, a product, an idea that can help really transform their business. So why do you even want to invite your customers? Well, first, as their partner, you're demonstrating you really care about their business. And next, it is your competitive edge. If you bring them and invite those customers in their participation at the event, you're likely going to have a longer and better and more productive discussions at the show. Then it's simply about enhancing productivity. If you think about all the plane trips, hotels, driving that you'd have to do to invest in seeing that many customers, versus seeing them all there at one time, think about the return. And it's simply where the industry meets and where business gets done. And lastly, we're going to make it worth your while. We're going to have a drawing for participants for a free booth space for utilizing the resource to invite your customers. It's a tremendous tool. And so let's show you real quickly how it works, and then how you can plug in. So first of all, in 5 simple minutes, you can prepare your own complimentary invitation page for the site. And you can you can find the link on the exhibitor dashboard under Invite Your Customers. Now, this is really important. NCA does a lot of work to rigorously vet our attendee prospects and ensure that they are indeed qualified business-to-business customers. So that said, it's really critical when your team is extending those invitations, they are complimentary. So making sure that they're among qualified retail wholesale distributors, because given everyone is rigorously vetted in the process, as part of the process, we want to make sure that we don't turn away one of your non-qualified prospects, because we know that negative reflects on you and your company. So you'll see here that you can use the company logo, a description, a booth number. It can be prominently displayed on your own page. So it's a tremendous feature that we invest in to offer you complimentary invitations for your most valued customers and potential prospects. So make sure you don't miss out on it. Those who plug in early are going to gain the best benefit by utilizing the resource. And it's really easy to set up, and our Director of Marketing, Paul Kisson, will be happy to help you get started right away. So with that, I want to introduce our speaker today. We're very fortunate to have partnered with a true expert in the trade show industry who has helped both guide this effort and provide us with the tools that we've outlined here on the Success and ROI page. Jefferson Davis is of competitive edge. He's an icon in the trade show industry. As a consultant and speaker of over 30 years and thousands of trade show evaluations and hundreds of exhibits where he's refined his craft across dozens of industries. We've partnered with him because he's about results. It's not just about activity. It's helping people accelerate their sales results from participation in trade shows. Now, given your company's participation in trade show may be your single biggest marketing investment for the year, we share in his passion to help you deliver results. He achieves results through refinement and processes and critical success factors, and his results speak volumes as he's helped generate almost $1 billion in trade show results. So with that, it's our pleasure and honor to introduce to you Jefferson Davis. Jefferson?
All right. Thank you, Larry. And again, thanks to everyone for being here today. Trade shows, I really fell in love with them. I got tossed into my first show in 1985. I'm as much a practitioner and a student as I am a teacher and consultant and trainer. I'm continually on the hunt for how do we take this big investment of financial and human capital, and how do we make sure that we are leveraging it to visibly support our core business objectives and deliver measurable financial value beyond cost. And I've really been researching this now since 1988 and applying it with my clients and everybody I work with. And I absolutely believe that when they're viewed properly and executed properly, that trade shows are one of our most effective sales, marketing, and customer relationship management media when we view them and we execute them properly. And that's why Larry and the executive team at NCA have made a commitment to providing ongoing education as part of the exhibit package. Because honestly, they don't teach this stuff in school. I imagine many of you sitting with me today have a degree in marketing. And if you do, I would ask you a simple question. How many hours of exhibiting education did you get in your college curriculum? If you're like the average person, an hour or less. So thanks for being here with us. It tells me a lot about you. So let's jump into our content here today. What's interesting about the topic of leads and trade shows is that every study I've ever been able to put my hands on as to why companies exhibit ranks lead capture as a top 3, if not the number 1 reason. And what happens is that whatever sales you happen to get at the show, if you're writing orders, right, and you're in a position that you can, it's only the tip of the iceberg. What you can get over time with a good lead management program will blow your mind. It's just like an iceberg floating out in the ocean. If you've ever seen one, you look at this large mass on top of the water and you're like, wow, that thing is massive. But what you can't see is what's under the water. And what's under the water dwarfs what's above the water. And that's what we're talking about here today, is that the show is not over when the doors close. And whatever you happen to capture at the show is probably just the low-hanging fruit. So we want to really take a deep dive and a singular focus dive into this topic of trade show lead management. So let's start off kind of priming our mental pump, if you will, wrapping our minds around what we're going to talk about for the next 30 minutes. First question I want to ask you, and I want you to jot your answers down in your workbook or on a notepad if you're taking notes that way, is how important do you feel leads are to the success of your exhibit program? And you could put that on a 1 to 10 if you like, with a 10 being absolutely critical. It's the number 1 reason. If we don't do this well, we fail. You might put it as a 1, but if you put it as a 1, you're probably not on this webinar with us today. The second thing I want to ask you is, how do you currently capture leads in the booth? What device or tool do you use to capture leads? So go ahead and jot that down, because we're going to come back to that in the form of a poll in a few moments. And the third and final question, marketing. Most of us who are running the trade show program are on the exhibit and the marketing side, and we're responsible for lead generation. And then we hand our leads off either to sales or dealers or distributors. So I want to ask you, do you know what becomes of your leads? Do you know the ultimate disposition of the lead, whether they convert, and if they bought, how much they bought, or whatever? So jot these 3 questions down as we get started here to really drill us into the topic we're diving into today. I want to share some insights with you on lead management. Some of them may be a bit shocking. I'm going to warn you, some of them are shocking. Okay, so the first big idea, not so shocking, but true, that if you ever hope to get a hard dollar return on investment and you're not writing orders on the show floor, the real product, the thing that you're going to walk off the Sweets and Snacks Expo floor with, is leads. So we got to make sure that our team understands that, right? If we're not writing orders, closing deals, then the real product is leads. It's what we're going to get measured by. Now, according to a Center for Exhibition Industry research study, this is disturbing. They do retrospective surveys of buyers that attend trade shows. One of the questions they ask is, of the booths that you visited and requested information or contact, what percentage of those exhibitors have followed up with you? The last North American B2B average was 13% followed up, 87% don't. Now, if you go back, right, and you say, hey, didn't we just say that lead capture was a top 3 reason? And yet the data is telling us that 87% buyers are saying that they're not being followed up with. And here's the problem with the lack of follow-up. Not only does it limit or block your return on investment, but the greater damage is that it limits value that the attendees, that the buyers get from their time in the exhibit hall. So if we're not going to follow up on a lead, here's the best advice I could give you. Don't take it. Look them in the eye and say, sir, ma'am, based on what you've told me, I don't think that we're a match. I would like to recommend that you maybe talk to this company. So if you're not going to follow up on the leads, right, don't take them, because you may do more damage, not only to yourself, but to the marketplace than otherwise. Second, this one really rocks my world. Okay, so if you're in marketing and you're handing trade show leads off to a sales manager, a regional sales manager, a dealer, a distributor, an independent rep group, 3 out of 4 salespeople who receive trade show leads view them as cold calls. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute, right? A person has walked into your booth. They've engaged with your staff. They've indicated interest in your product. They've given you their badge to scan. And the salespeople are viewing these as cold calls? I wonder if there's a connection between this statistic and the 87% not being followed up. I would think so. And here's another one that's a bit shocking, is that 43% of attendees that go to trade shows with near future purchase intent say that they finally receive information after they've made a buying decision. Talk about being too late to the party, huh? So if we're follow up fast and make sure that we're getting high quality, information rich leads, and make sure that our sales team is aware of this. And that's all the stuff that we're going to walk you through in our time together on how to do this. And I believe that the problem starts with the perception of trade show lead value and the capture process, which we're going to get into, the capture process. And finally, I've worked over the years with hundreds and hundreds of companies, and initially 90% of the companies I work with as a consultant trainer when I first come on board really don't know what becomes of their leads. Okay, so as much as these may be a little disturbing, to me, they give you the opportunity to seize competitive advantage. Okay, so what's behind this? Well, first of all is the quality issue, right? I saw a cartoon years ago in Business Marketing Magazine, and it was kind of funny, but it was kind of sad. It said, question, what is the difference between most trade show leads and a fortune cookie? And it said, answer, the fortune cookie might come true. Well, I mean, that's a little bit humorous, but that's not good, right? So there is this quality perception. Then we have the marketing and sales disconnect, that maybe we're operating in silos and we're not really on the same page in terms of the customer acquisition process and the role of marketing and the role of sales working together to make sure this happens. Third reason, lack of exhibit staff training. 86% of the people that stand on a trade show floor have never had an hour of skills training in how to do that. They make behavioral and communication errors that will limit your traffic, limit the quantity and quality of your leads, and could ultimately block your return on investment. Fourth reason is just not being clear what a lead really is. I'll give you an example. I have a team of 10 trade show experts. We go to trade shows and do a program called E3, Exhibiting Effectiveness Evaluation. We are wearing branded apparel. We have an iPad in our hands. I can't tell you the number of times we walk into a booth, we're standing there evaluating the booth, somebody runs up to us and quickly says, can I scan your badge? Click, scans our badge, turns around and walks away. Okay, now I got a question for you. If I'm at a show doing an exhibit evaluation of your company in action, am I a lead? Probably not, right? Probably not. So we got to make sure everyone's clear on what a lead is. And finally, the lack of a closed loop. What's interesting about number 5, the lack of the closed loop, listen carefully here. Many of you actually are getting a significant return on your trade show investment, but you can't see it because you don't have a closed loop management system. You know, it's 9 months after Sweets and Snacks Expo. You land a large order from a 15-chain regional store, and it came back. That started at Sweets and Snacks Expo. But you don't know, right? Because it was never tagged to the show. It wasn't properly entered in the CRM. We don't know if it was followed up on. There was no closed loop. So these are the things that are behind this lead management problem. So now that we've kind of set the table on the statistics and the insights and some of the backstory on what's causing all this, let's get into some ideas to solve this. Number one, sometimes we got to deliver what I call a wake up and smell the concrete message to our team. And here's some ways to do that by calculating the real cost of poor lead management. One of the most important metrics every exhibitor can and should be running, I'm amazed at how few do, is your cost per lead. So if you invested $25,000 into a trade show and you captured 100 leads, your cost per lead was $250. That's real cost. That's cash that you paid. We're going to talk later about how to use that number to motivate your team to follow up. Okay, so calculate your cost per lead every show you do. Second, there's two ways to look at this. You could look at it in potential gain or potential loss. Okay, so if you will take your average sales amount, multiply it by the number of leads you captured and by your lead conversion percentage, you'll come up with a number. Here it is. So let's say that your average sale amount is $5,000 and you capture 100 leads and 1 out of 4 of those leads typically convert to business. By following up, you stand to gain $125,000. By not following up, you stand to lose $125,000. You basically leave it on the floor for your competition. Okay? And here's probably the greater one, and this is cost, but it's hard to put a dollar value, the impact on your brand in the marketplace. So if I'm a candy buyer, right, or a snack buyer, I walk into your booth, I'm interested in your products. I give you my badge to scan. A month goes by, 2 months go by, I don't hear from you. Here's the question. How do you think that lack of follow-up will impact your brand perception in my mind, right? And if this is happening hundreds of times over the course of the show, how will it impact your perception in the market? People talk. Social media has made it faster and easier than ever to talk. Okay, so we got to make sure that we're measuring the cost per lead, we're assessing the potential gain and loss value, and we're paying attention that the lack of follow-up could be hurting our brand in the marketplace. And none of this is good. All right, so there's 4 phases to closed loop lead management. It starts with capture, and we're looking for one thing: high quality leads. We're going to define what that means in a moment. Second, we got to efficiently route. These leads got to move fast. They got to move from the capture device to the CRM into the hands of the people who followed up. According to Fish Software, write this number down. According to Fish Software, the average exhibitor takes 26 days to vet their trade show leads, to get them from the capture device into the CRM and into the hands for follow-up. I've got a rule of thumb. I can't tell you it's scientific, but it's pretty accurate. The value of a trade show lead diminishes by 15% per week unless the visitor requested a longer follow-up time frame. So if 6 weeks passed and we haven't followed up on our leads, we've probably lost 90% of the value of our leads. We got to move them fast from capture into the CRM, into the right people's hands. And then the third phase of our closed loop system, we got to make sure that the follow-up is happening. We got to make sure that they're actually doing something with these leads. And finally, we got to make it easy for the people who are receiving leads to report the progression, what's happening with the lead, and the ultimate sales conversion. If you manage capture, routing, follow-up, and reporting, you have a closed loop system. If you neglect any one or any combination of these 4 phases, your system is compromised. So that really raises a good question at this point. If you had to score your company's current practices on these 4 phases of closed loop lead management, how would you score yourself on a 1 to 5 or a 1 to 10 scale, whatever makes sense to you? Any area that scores low will be your limiting factor. It'll also be the bridge that you're going to have to create. Okay, so here we go. Rubber meets the road. Let's make sure everybody in our company, when we say lead, it's not running up and scanning the evaluator's badge when he's standing near your booth, right? Well, here's what makes a quality lead. Personal interaction, questions asked, Answers captured. Key point. The next step has been identified and agreed to by the visitor. 4 elements to a lead. So make sure your booth staff knows when we say lead, this is what we mean, right? These 4 elements. On the flip side, here's what isn't a lead. Setting a fishbowl in your booth saying, drop your card here for a chance to win a GoPro. Business cards that end up in booth staffers' pockets. You don't even know they got captured. Just randomly swiping or scanning badges, no engagement with the visitor, and not capturing additional information. Give me 50 of what is a lead, I'll convert 15 to 30 of those to business consistently. Give me 500 what isn't a lead, I'll be lucky to convert 5. Okay, how do you want to do this? Hard way, easy way. I think everyone's here, you want to do it the easy way. Okay, let's talk about lead goals. I'm an absolute believer in defining your outcomes. As Larry mentioned, we've got a great process up on the 5-step program on how to use math. I'm going to take you inside of one of the formulas right now, and this will guide you on how to set lead goals. See, the problem with the way most exhibitors set lead goals is they say, well, we got 100 leads at last year's show, so we should go for 110 this year. Well, here's my question. Was 100 the right number? Was there any science behind that? Was there any math? Let's use science. Let's use math. It's pretty simple. Grab your pen, grab a calculator. Let's do it now. Okay, Sweets and Snacks Expo has 20 exhibiting hours. I want you to win the game from your exhibit. Anything that you capture in the golden hours in the morning or the entertaining hours in the evening are the icing on the cake. Win from your exhibit. So there are 20 hours. Question. How many people are going to stand in your booth for the purpose of talking to visitors? The staffing rule of thumb, as you can see in the footnote, is 50. So if I'm in a 10 by 10 booth, I have the space for 2 booth staffers. How many do you have? Write it down. Multiply those 2 numbers together and you have your total staff hours. Listen very carefully to this next variable. I want you to set a clear and firm target number of interactions per hour per staffer. 3 is conservative, 4 is moderate, 5 is maybe aggressive. I'm going to use 3. If you haven't used the formula before, I'm going to suggest you start at 3. So what does this mean? That when your booth staff's standing in your exhibit, they are on the clock for a minimum of 3 face-to-face, one-to-one interactions per hour. That will give you a total exhibit interaction capacity of 120. Now, here's the thing. Not all of those are going to convert to a lead. Some percentage will. The benchmark, according to the Center for Exhibition Industry Research, is 1 out of 4. So let's use it. I would have a qualified lead goal of 40 qualified leads by closing time. You know what's interesting about this? If I have 2 booth staffers and I have 20 hours, each one of my booth staff are on the clock for 1 qualified lead per hour. Is that realistic? Is that achievable? You bet. But it takes focus. If you just stand around and kind of don't have a clear game plan and don't have quantification and don't have goals, it's easy to find your booth staff sitting behind the table with a cell phone in one hand and a Starbucks in the other, and then complaining that, wow, we didn't get enough leads. Speaking of enough leads, we went inside the numbers of 2018's Sweets and Snack Expo, and 298 exhibitors out of over 800, so not even everyone is using the lead retrieval system, that, they captured over 23,000, let me say that again, 23,000 new leads scanned. And that was only by not quite a third of the total exhibitors. The average exhibitor had 77. The average machine had 45. And what really is interesting about this is that the top 10 lead generators, and you'll notice these were mostly 10 by 10 booths, interestingly enough, had from 237 to 475. The bottom 10 lead generators were between 1 and 18 leads. For those bottom 10, one of 2 things. Either leads were not a priority for them, or they were watching the moving parade of life go by in the aisles, and they were not proactively attracting and engaging and qualifying. Okay, so remember this about lead quality. Like if I could give you one big idea that would take the quality of your lead immediately through the ceiling, it would be this: that clarity of and the visitor's commitment to the next step. That's the leverage point, right? So, as the old scripture tells us, ask and ye shall receive. So what do we need to be asking? Well, we need to engage our sales team and ask them what information, if we could capture beyond, name, address, email address, whatever, would help us qualify a lead. And then we have to integrate this into our capture device. Write this phrase down. You may never have this chance again when you're standing face-to-face with this visitor to ask the questions. So engage your sales team, ask what information do we need to capture, put it into the natural flow of conversation, and integrate it into your lead capture device. Okay, get more information than just what's embedded in the badge. Sometimes the badge has a lot, sometimes it has a little, right? But don't just accept what's in the badge. And by the way, when you talk to the show organizer, they'll tell you what's typically in the badge. But my question for you is, what else do you need to capture? Well, this visitor is standing there face to face with you, right? Okay, let's talk about capture devices. Remember, we said the problem starts here. So here are the 4 generations. Number 1, collect business cards. Number 2, use a paper lead form. Just create a form, right, with your questions on it. Number 3, rent the show capture system. And I'm going to call this 3A, customize it with qualifiers. I'm amazed at how few exhibitors use custom qualifiers. And number 4 would be investing or buying your own universal lead capture system. Now, remember this: when you do have your own system, you'll have to work with the show's lead capture company to determine how to capture encrypted data embedded in the badge. So I want to launch a quick poll right now that I've got everyone online here. Take a look at your screen. Let me find my poll here. And what I want to ask you is, how do you currently capture leads right now? I'll give you just a few seconds to click the radio dial button that applies. Fastest fingers, the poll's live. Everybody do it. All right, we're at about 50% of you have polled. If you haven't polled yet, please poll. We are running, time is getting by us very quickly, and we still have a bit of content to go. We're at almost 80%. We're now at 80%. 87%, boy, that's representative. I'm going to close the poll now on 3, 2, 1, and I want to share the results because I think it's interesting. 27% of us collect business cards. Well, let's think about that. What's the problem with business cards? First of all, what if they're not carrying one, right? 8% of us are using a paper lead form, and maybe you're stapling the business card to the form. What's the problem with that? Well, somehow you got to transfer that data from paper into your CRM, whether it's a spreadsheet or a CRM. 58% of you are renting the show lead retrieval system. 8% of you are using a universal capture system. So with that, I want to quickly bring Catherine Walker on from Experian. She's going to just give you, we're not here to sell you anything today. We just want you to be aware. She's going to give you a very quick peek at the lead retrieval process at Sweets and Snacks Expo. Catherine, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Jefferson. Basically, I guess what I'm here to talk to you about is the different products that Experian will offer to you should you choose to purchase a lead retrieval system through this show. We are the only vendor that is able to provide these devices to you. The concept of lead retrieval, that as far as we are concerned at Experian, is simply using an Experian provided badge scanner, which of course will allow you to scan the QR code on an attendee badge. It sounds like a large proportion of you are already familiar with that and perhaps even used us last year. I just wanted to refresh that this will lead to immediate population of data on that device, as well as immediate population in your password-protected portal. So as soon as you scan an attendee QR code, that information will come directly to your device that you're using and go to your portal. The benefit, of course, of this is it allows you to not break eye contact or have the attendee fill out a form. I know that there are some people who really like those forms. Do be aware that every one of our products allows you to put a customized survey on the device so that if you have additional information, you can capture it there, but you don't have to write down the phone number and the fax number and the mailing address and that type of thing. So there are a couple of different ways to order, and those would be, through your registration portal. So there is a single sign-on for where you register. You also have an Experian lead portal, so you can sort of go right around that. Probably the easiest way is to click through any email that Experian sends you that's lead related. Every one of those emails has a direct click through to your portal. Next. Okay, again, I do want to tell you that all choices do include the data collection on your secure portal, optional custom survey, ability to take notes. They're all on the Swap app platform, so they are sort of interchangeable. You can mix and match products. So with that, I'll start with the Swap app. This is our personal app that you can download to your personal device. Any data connected device will do, a tablet or any sort of a phone. There are a couple of different advantages to the Swap app. First of all, it's very cost effective to get it in the hands of as many people that you have in your booth. So if you have 5 or 6 booth staff and you want them all to have a lead capture device, this might be the way that you want to go. A lot of people are very, very comfortable using their own phones. And the Swap app also has 2 distinct advantages that are only available on a personal device. And that is that you can send marketing collateral immediately through your email client on your phone, and you can also do talk to text. So if you want to take a lot of notes, we've seen a lot of people say, well, as soon as somebody walks away, I'm going to just quick speak into my phone and say that was the guy who, I don't know, had some distinctive feature, and that'll make me remember him. So we see people liking Swap for that. Next. The handheld scanner, or our RT2000, is basically an Android device that's loaded with Swap, but it is affixed to a laser scanner that is super, super quick. Now, this is not for your personal device. This is a shareable device, and one of the biggest reasons that we see people choosing this is if they maybe have hired booth staff, or not everyone in their booth is do they want scanning, or if they have a very, very busy booth and they want really, really super fast scanning. So you don't even have to break eye contact with this. You just kind of shoot down at their badge and you're going to get that information. Next. Our third product is the Android tablet. Again, it's on the Swap platform, and so you could probably see from the screens that they all look very similar to one another. If you know how to use one of these devices, you can quite easily switch to another. So we do have several companies who mix and match. They put Swap in the hands of all of their staff, and then they have a tablet on the table for maybe when somebody gets into a very long survey, or they want that bigger screen, or they want to type in a lot of notes. So that's kind of the advantage of the tablet. And before you move to the next slide, I do want to also say I saw that there was at least one and possibly 2 of you who have their own universal devices, and we can accommodate that too. We don't have a slide on that, but it's called our developer kit, and that will be we can fulfill that directly through the portal, or you can get assistance from Michelle, whose contact information is going to be on the next slide. Okay, so pre-show assistance. Your dedicated rep is Michelle Williver. Some of you might have already spoken with her, or have certainly spoken with her over the years, because I think she's been working this show for about as long as we've been working with Sweets and Snacks. So that's her contact information there. And then there also will be on-site support. And that's Brian Lavoie, and he will be located in the exhibitor services area. So all of exhibitor services, all of your floral, all of your operations, all that kind of stuff, all going to be located in the same area, and he will be in there. So you would go to see him if you were picking up a physical device. You do not need to see him if you're just downloading an app, but he is there for the entirety of the show to support you. So if something happens and you can't figure out how to download your app, then you go right up and he's there for you. He'll also come out if you need him. So.
All right, thank you.
I think that's it.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. This would be a good time to go to your question queue. Fire away with any questions you have. I apologize, we're running a few minutes behind schedule. We got a few more great content points coming up. I'm going to power through those, and then we'll come back and make sure we answer all your questions. So go ahead, fire away with your questions now, and I'll keep rolling. Okay, so when you think about customizing your capture device, think about, the contact information will be obviously already embedded, but think about maybe capturing what is the visitor's relationship with the company. If you're doing a lot of pre-show marketing, you might want to ask how they learned about your booth. Your situational questions are what we call your front-end qualifiers, and you'll usually learn about the store, the number of stores, the person's job function, title, or influence. Then you'll be able to select what products that they're interested in. Your back-end qualifiers are your harder qualifiers, things like seasonality, budget, open to buy, time frame. Your next action is always critical. Remember, next action is, and their commitment to it is key, and having space to capture freehand notes. And this is an example of if you were doing like a paper card, which would roll right over into a custom capture device. Not all leads are graded equal. You've got to develop a grading system. So you first want to ask yourself, what information do we need to use to assign value? In my example, I'm using time frame, budget, and buying role, which would be 3 codes. Then I'm putting a little bit of color onto what these 3 codes mean, 0 to 3 months to more than a year. And then I'm making sure that this data is embedded into my capture device, because this is how I'm going to grade my leads after the show. Make sure you have a lead captain. Somebody has got to be driving this ship in terms of setting and communicating the goal, making sure the devices are available and functioning. They're really paying attention on a shift-to-shift or a day-to-day goal versus actual. And they're acknowledging the people that are performing and maybe correcting those who aren't performing or who aren't getting enough data. And they may even be your point of contact post-show. Getting your sales team, number one, just let them know you are committed to improving lead quality. Calculate and share your cost per lead. If you hand an individual 10 leads you paid $250 each for, that's the same thing as handling them $2,500 of company capital. Make sure they know that. Set 3 firm post-show reporting dates: 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 45 days, 90 days, 180 days, whatever makes sense with your sales cycle. Tie contests to those 3 reporting dates as a way to create competition and build accountability. And here's a little out of the box, but if you're paying a lot for leads and you're giving them to people and they're not following up or not reporting, you might want to test over time beginning to charge for leads. If you paid $250 for a lead and they're not following up or not reporting, would it be reasonable that you charge $50 for a lead? I tell you what will happen if they pay for the lead, they'll follow up on it, right? And it may or may not make sense for many of you. To build a culture of reporting accountability, contests, even day-to-day contests in the booth, really kind of kick off the program. Your end of shift, your end of day lead review meeting is absolutely critical. Circle the group at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. And our goal today was we captured this many. How many did John? How many did Mary? How many did George capture? Make sure everybody knows. Maybe have an MVP for the day, the most valuable lead capture. You as the exhibit manager, your close of show lead report, communicate your goal and your actual, your cost per lead, the number and the percentage by priority code, and the potential revenue value of your leads. Move fast, as we said. The Harvard Business Review has found that speed of response equals higher conversion. Wednesday and Thursdays, best days to make those calls. 4 and 5 p.m., strangely enough, best time of day. Average exhibitor stops after 2 attempts. If you will just stay in the game for a few more attempts, you can increase your conversion by up to 70%. And get your plan together before the show. Do not wait until you get home and you've been out of the office for a week. And now what are we going to do with all these leads? Move fast. Plan for at least 6 to 12 touches over the next 3 to 6 months, and use multiple media. Don't just email. Mix it up. Use email, use mail, use phone, use social media, maybe in-person visits, and deliver value. It's not just always reaching out trying to sell. Educate, provide samples, do social media posts. Promotional products are a great way to stay in front. Give them case studies, testimonial letters, videos. How can you add value to their world and get them to see you as the source from which all knowledge flows in your product category? That's the position you're looking for. All right, we've run a few minutes over, but I'm going to open the question queue. And while I take a look in the queue, Larry, was there anything you wanted to add as we're winding down here from NCA about this topic or anything?
Well, thank you, Jefferson, and I hope that you found this valuable. And one of the things that we would encourage all of you is to share this content. We have recorded the content, is to share it with all of the sales and marketers that will be present and participating in the booth. What we find a lot of times is a lot of people believe they do know these kinds of things. And while much of it is intuitive, a lot of people really don't know that they don't know. So sharing this out and working with your team to implement some of the strategies that Jefferson has shared with you is really an opportunity for you to improve your performance. And when you succeed, we succeed as a show because we're vested in your success, and we urge you to take advantage of the resources that we provided for you. And then also we have another webcast that's coming up on April 18th called Best Practices for Measuring, Exhibiting Performance, Value, and ROI. Again, additional resources all available on the page that we shared up front, and we'll share it in the back page here as well. But take advantage of those resources. They're for you and for your teams. And we really look forward to you having a very successful show, because when you do, we know you'll be back, and we know that the customers will be back because you will be following up on those leads and you will be delivering the results, and everybody wins. So I'll throw it back to you, Jefferson.
Thank you, Larry. We've got a few questions in. Catherine, I think a few of these will be in your wheelhouse right out of the gate. The first question is, if we've already purchased a lead retrieval option and we want to switch to another option, say from like a tablet to an app, is there a way to do that?
Yes, there is. Call Michelle and she can get you set up.
Okay, so if you want to switch, you've already purchased, you want to switch, call Michelle and she'll be able to help you do that. The next one.
Well, yes. Excuse me, but please do it sooner rather than later, because we want to do that within 30 days before the show.
Try to do 30 days before the show too. So yeah, make sure you move pretty quick on that. This next one I think is in your wheelhouse also, Catherine. It says, please confirm we can build an op card if we're using the Swap app on our phone. So I guess they're wanting to confirm that they can do qualifiers. That's what it sounds like to me. Is that correct?
Yes. If you can confirm that that's what they mean. A qualifier, is that what? Maybe I didn't hear correctly.
Yeah, the question was, please confirm that we can build an op card if using the Swap app on our phone. So I believe they're talking about questions. I understand.
Okay, because I've not heard that term before. But yes, you are absolutely able to do a custom survey on Swap on your phone. You build that through your portal, and then it downloads to your phone automatically. Okay,
another question for you, Catherine. How long do we have access to leads captured with the Swap app?
2 years.
2 years. Okay, good. 2 years. Yeah, you have quite a bit of time, but move fast again. Don't wait. Move really quick.
Yeah, don't wait. Don't use the 2 years.
Okay. And then, Larry, I think this question may be in your wheelhouse. They're asking, are you providing a list of attendees again this year? And if so, when would it be available?
We will have a list posted, yet we do not have the email addresses. We are We will have those, the customers and the titles, and that will be available on the site, and that should be posted shortly, by April.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Catherine, back to you. Another question. It says, can we convert your leads from the Swap app to Salesforce or other CRMs?
We aren't currently capable of putting them directly into Salesforce, but they're fully downloadable into Excel or CSV.
Okay, so then the process would be to download them either into an Excel or a CSV file and then
Correct.
upload it to CRM, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. For whether that is Salesforce, Goldmine, Act, or whatever you may be using. Let me see this next question. I'm going to take a swing at, and if Larry and Catherine, if anyone wants to add, so I'll start with it. The question is, how do you handle the issue of the badges either not having the correct or direct contact for follow-up? What I always do when I'm capturing a lead is I kind of collaborate on the visitor what the next step is. And as I'm doing that, I'll say, hey, I want to make sure that I have your data correct, and I'll show them what I have in the device. And they'll go, oh, no, that's not right. And if you're trying to get another person within the company, to add to the notes, they're not in the app, so when you scan it, it's not going to show up. The way I do that is I might say, Catherine, let me ask you, besides yourself, giving them authority, right? Saying, hey, besides yourself, who else do you feel might need to receive information or know what we're talking about here? So by asking who besides yourself, that should open the door for you to capture another contact within the company.
So Jefferson, if I could bolt on to that, one of the things I wanted to let everybody know is this year we have been much more rigorous in the vetting process, as I mentioned up front. And much of that is really about the upfront transparency in the registration process, so that we get people qualified in the right groups of people, so that you're not actually talking to a supplier when you're talking to thinking you're talking to a customer, for example. So making sure they're categorized correctly and that their information is correct in the process. So we are doing a lot of work to try to continue. I have to tell you, it's never perfect. No show ever is yet. We're making huge strides in the registration process to ensure more accurate information, because we know how much you value that.
Yes, thank you, Larry. And again, it's always good as a best practice. I'm looking for what's not in the lead retrieval. Like, for example, many people might not include their email address when you scan, but if you need email address for follow-up, that would be the time to ask. Say, hey, I noticed your email address is not here. We would like to be able to follow up. Can I get your email address? And honestly, if they're not going to give you their email address, that's probably telling you something too. Not with 100% certainty, but we're back to the ask and ye shall receive mantra. We had multiple questions about, was today's webinar recorded? Yeah, we recorded. It will be uploaded to the exhibitor success page ASAP. I'll be sending the recorded today. This question's in my wheelhouse, and Larry, feel free to add on this, because I'm sure you've seen a lot, and your years out there. What are the biggest behavioral and communication errors booth staff make? I'll give you some of my tops. Behavioral errors: sitting down, sitting down while standing to a talking visitor, putting a table between you and the visitor, passive, looking and acting like you don't want to be there, over-aggressive, out in the aisles, pouncing on people, eating, drinking, texting, working on a computer in the booth. Those would be some of the big behavioral errors that are going to hurt you. Communication errors usually come down to launching right into a pitch before knowing who you're talking to. Communication errors would be not asking enough questions. Communication errors would be dumping too much content into one message, not chunking it down. Communication errors would be using jargon that they may or may not understand. Communication errors would be talking over their head or talking below. Communication errors would be spending a lot of time telling them what they already know and not asking questions to determine their level of familiarity with your company or your brands. Larry, anything you would add on that?
Yeah, well, I have two comments. One, and that's a tough list to top. I have to tell you. Thank you for that, because I've seen any and all of those in some capacity. But here's another one that I would urge you, because now you're in the planning process, and this one you can impact, and that is ensuring you have the right people in that booth that can answer the questions and that understand the products that are going to be put into your booth, are able to answer questions relative to those products. And if you're doing, for example, export, making sure you have a contact that can address export. That's one. But then the last thing I would just add is just ask yourself the key question: would I do business with me? And in terms of the behaviors that I and my team are exhibiting. And if the answer is yes, you're probably doing more things right. But often when you look and if you walk up and down the aisles, it's very evident some people are not there to do the business, and that's not going to be you, because you're on this call.
Nicely said, Larry. And, I would add to that, half of the battle of staying toe-to-toe, talking with buyers the entire show, is simply looking like you want to in a non-aggressive manner. Larry, I got another question I think might be right up your wheelhouse. So if I'm an exhibitor and I'm looking for ways to try to really assess or measure my brand impressions, it's more of a marketing event for me. What advice would you give an exhibitor on measuring brand impressions or impact?
Well, I think I think one of the things is the level of engagement you have in the lead work that Jefferson's been sharing with you today, because that's a true indication. It's a very visible indication of interest. But the other thing, too, is even how you enter the show. Somebody said to me, it's not about footprint, it's about imprint, right? Are you leveraging all those activities to unlock your brand? Are you taking advantage of things like sponsorships, sampling opportunities, those kinds of things that are available to have your brand represented in other places than your booth? And some do, and many don't. So there's an opportunity there to extend your brand imprint rather than just the footprint, because your footprint could be a 10 by 10, it could be a 50 by 50. But again, that's a very limited amount of space. But if you can have more impact throughout the show, that's another opportunity.
Yeah, measurement, when you're trying to measure branding, there's so many elements to it in terms of awareness or in terms of understanding of your brand position, and measuring things like your traffic to your website, measuring things like before and after the show. Like if you were getting X number of hits per day, per week prior to Sweets and Snacks Expo, and then you went after the show and saw that your website traffic has gone up, you could be measuring social media, the number of friends, followers, the number of tweets or retweets. Some people, when they try to really get branding, will use surveys. They'll use, sometimes it would be maybe an exit survey to visitors at your booth. Sometimes it would be a pre-show survey to a select segment of the universe to try to gauge brand awareness, and then doing a post-show survey to try to assess did brand awareness move. So there's a lot of content. I would also refer each of you to Exhibitor Magazine's website. There's incredible content up there, and it's all free too. So that is all I am seeing for questions. I want to thank everybody for logging in and hanging around. Had a very robust Q&A. We've gone 15 minutes past our content time, but that usually happens when we're in the Q&A. So, on behalf of Larry Wilson and everyone at the NCA, and Catherine Walker and everybody at Experian and myself here at Jefferson, we thank you so much for being here, taking the time. Keep learning, keep growing, apply what you learn, and if you will, there will come a day and time when you'll look back, and it may be this year, and say, what a difference a trade show can make for our company. And that's our hope, our dream, our wish, and our prayer for every one of you. So thanks for logging in. This concludes our webinar. As Larry mentioned, we've got another webinar on deck. Make sure you check in for that. It is inside your exhibiting numbers. All right. So thanks for logging in, everybody. We'll see you again soon.